A lot of the waste that you're accumulating in your body is leading to the diabetes, is leading to the hypertension, is leading to the acne, is leading to the digestive issues, is leading to the autoimmune conditions. Okay, so it's really important. We need to understand that there has been a shift in our society. There's been a shift in the food industry in the last 50, 60 years. And that is why we're so sick today. This is why when you look at autism, for instance, if you go back to the 1980s specifically, and you look at the rate of autism in 1980, it's 1 out of every 10,000. Okay. If you look today at autism rates, it's 1 out of every 36. Okay. 1 out of every 36. Now, how did we get from 1 out of every 10,000 in 1980 to 1 out of every 36, and potentially in 2050, 1 out of every 2 children, 50% of children will be autistic? So you got to understand, so many things are changing, and the primary things that are changing are our food. Okay, food has been industrialized and unfortunately has been made into a product, and it's no longer food anymore. When you look at how we even communicate with each other, cell phones, computers, televisions, etc., all of these things are giving off a lot of EMF radiation. Nobody really knows the impact of that because we just started using cell phones widespread in 2000. In the late 90s. So we're only about 20 years into using cell phones the way that we're using cell phones today. Some people have screen times of 8 to 10 hours a day of looking at their cell phones, and they don't know what that radiation is doing to the body. And so now we got genetically modified foods. Now we have lab grown meat, just got approved by the FDA here in the US. Okay. And Italy became the first country to ban lab-grown meat, so it's real. And I'll tell you this, a lot of people think that this meat is new and it's just now coming to the market. It's already been out there. It's already been out there. It's already been tested. They've already been testing it on the population. So when you start to think about the position that we're in today as compared to our ancestors, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, where, let's go 70 years ago. 70 years ago, a refrigerator wasn't a common thing. Not everybody had a refrigerator, okay? Just 70 years ago, not everybody had a refrigerator. What does that mean? That means you had to get your food fresh every day. You couldn't just pack it in the refrigerator to keep it cool. That means that, you had to go out to the market, go to the farmer, not farmer's market, to get your food. There wasn't supermarkets like that exist today, where you can just walk in and there's this plethora of food, okay? Aisles and aisles of food. So much has changed, Our most of our great grandparents had gardens, or they knew where their food came from because it came somewhere probably 5-10 miles away. So it's important we know a lot has shifted, and this is why we're so sick today. And so I want to explain to you why we have this issue of so much weight gain. The reason why we have this issue of so much weight gain is because most of the food is toxins, okay? And what I mean by that is 70% of the standard American diet, that's the diet that most people eat here in America, and also other countries too, because other countries are adopting this practice as well too. But 70% of our diet here in the US is processed, ultra processed foods. This means that when I say processed, what I mean, everything has been ripped out of it. The fiber has been ripped out of it, the vitamins, the minerals, the trace elements, everything about the phytonutrients, the enzymes, everything has been ripped out of it. That's what processed means. And a lot of people don't understand that. So when you process wheat, when you process, pasta, when you get anything in a box, bag, can, jar, it has been processed, okay? And it has to be processed. And this is why it have to be processed, because things that are natural break down and decay, okay, very quickly. So if you put anything natural on a shelf, even if it was just, a jar full of wheat, actual wheat you take from the field, it could be spelt, take it from the field, put it in a jar. You put it in that jar, it will not last longer than a week, okay? So everything you get in a box, bag, can, jar has been processed. That means that everything good has been taken out of it. Why do they do that? All living parts of that food is what's actually keeping it alive, okay? And that is the part of the food that actually decays and breaks down, because that's what bacteria, fungus, mold wants. That's why it's eating the food down. That's why it gets mold on it. Okay, you'll notice now a lot of the food today does not go bad anymore. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You go get some tomatoes, you go get some bread, a lot of the things that we're getting and we're thinking is real food, it never breaks down, it never spoils, it never goes bad. Okay, even think of that in terms of meat. Okay, now we know if you were to accidentally, see somebody hit a squirrel, or a deer in the road. We've seen this, right? And if you come back 2 or 3 days later, it's stiff, okay? Rigor mortis. You come back another day or two later, and it's almost turned a whole nother color, okay? Like a gray like color, okay? You start to lose your color. And then all of a sudden there's breakdown, and you start to hit. Now, I'm not trying to be too graphic, but you start to see the smells. You start to see things breaking down, this animal, just like we would if we passed away. Okay, put that in perspective. Most of the meat that is in the grocery stores, that meat was chopped up, killed a year ago, okay, at minimum. And it was chopped up, killed a year ago, and has been going from refrigerator to freezer to store to truck to store, okay? And then it sits out in these little coolers for you to see. It is not natural to see something that has been alive for a year and then you dead for a year, and you put it out in a meat package and it's still red, okay? We know that just using common sense, that's not how it works in reality. So why is it still red? Because they spray it with meat dye. Okay, this red dye that keeps it. If they were not to spray it with dyes, then you would see, sometimes you'll notice in that meat section, you'll see the packages of meat that are gray. Like I was telling you, like when we all pass away, that's what happens. That is what the meat actually looks like. And when something begins to break down and to decay, you have to understand that it is no longer a living thing. It cannot serve you anymore. So we're getting toxins through our food, okay? We're getting toxins through the air. We're getting toxins in our water supply. That incident that happened in Flint, Michigan, it was not an isolated incident, okay? That lead in the water, that's in most cities, because the municipal water, the piping was put down into the city 100 years ago, and it was lead piping. So that's where the lead is coming from. So there's lead in the water. There's bacteria in the water that is dangerous. There's fluoride in the water. There's chlorine in the water. But all of these are carcinogenic, okay? Not to mention trace particles of drugs like antidepressants in the water too, because a lot of people flush them down. So our water is polluted, okay? The things we put on our skin are polluted. Our cosmetic and hygiene products, okay? Our household products are polluted, all right? And a lot of these toxins are banned in other countries. That's what I want you to understand. Most of America's products and most of America's food is banned in other countries, okay? As a matter of fact, the food companies in America that you see in other countries, if you can look at the labels and compare the ingredients are totally different. In other countries that have banned American food, the food companies actually put healthy ingredients, the ingredients that are only allowed in that country, which are healthy ingredients. Okay, so it's hugely important to understand that there's a lot of toxicity, especially here in America, but also other places too. All right, so that's one of the reasons why it's 75% of the population in America is either overweight or obese. 42% of the population is obese. Okay, that is a huge number.